The best a man can get.
Welcome back to First Things First. We're now joined by NBA analyst Sarah Kustok. Sarah,
good to see you, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
CC,
CC,
you good?
Yeah.
I'm good.
I know you're good.
Oh,
I'm
excited to be here. Is CC doing okay? This is who I'm most concerned with.
Bro. Yeah,
I mean, we brought a basketball expert in here.
That's my
Can you pass the ball?
Sharing the spotlight. That's right. That's right. Good to see you, Sarah.
Great to see you guys.
In an effort to have as many different lineups as possible and thus give us subject matter for weeks, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs are now 11 games back of Toronto with 15 games left to play. But here's the thing. Kevin Love has a return date, everyone. March 23rd, game against the Suns. Sarah, I'll start with you. How will Kevin Love fit with the new pieces?
That's a great question. And I think that Kevin Love will fit. It will be how do the new pieces fit in with Kevin Love. You've got a guy coming back who obviously can score for you. I'm most excited to see him thrive in that second option on the scoring side, because that's where I think he feels most comfortable. What I think is the biggest challenge is what Tyronn Lue has ahead of him with his rosters. Not so much starting, but the rotation that he plays. Does he play Kevin Love at the 5? Does he keep Larry Nance starting? Play Love at the 4? I think there's so many different options for Lue, and he doesn't have a lot of time to figure it out until they get to the playoffs. So Kevin Love, I think, will fit seamlessly. I think it helps that it's an injury that's upper body, so he's been able to work on his conditioning. But I think it's how everyone else fits around him.
And we should remind the audience that he broke his hand before the trade deadline.
Yep.
So it's not even like he got a couple games with these guys. They have never played. The last time Kevin Love was on the court, Isaiah Thomas was there with him. So it was a drastically different team.
And to me, that's why it's so different, because we saw how good Kevin Love was at the beginning of the season. The numbers he was putting up, his productivity, that dropped because his touches dropped when Isaiah Thomas came back.
Right.
So he had left with touches dropped, a toxic locker room. I mean, when he was not on the floor for this Cleveland Cavaliers team, they were an absolute mess.
And we had talked earlier in the season that Kevin Love, this was the best basketball that we had seen him play since he had come over from the Timberwolves. So for me, I think the thing, you bring up some great points as far as what the injury is, what's the status of the player. Because people talk about, well, when he comes back, how long will it take? Well, he got a hand injury, so the conditioning factor is huge. So he doesn't have to get up to speed from a cardio standpoint. He can basically get into what are the X's, what are our sets, what are our defensive sets. Where I believe it has the most impact is on Larry Nance Jr. Because for one, let's not forget, Tristan Thompson's hurt. So Larry Nance Jr., he's not only been put into the starting lineup, but don't have many minutes to replace him. So he couldn't, he got drilled by a couple centers on this West Coast trip. So he is not that type of defender that can defend these big men 32 minutes a game. So Kevin Love will be able to give him a break. But also, you can keep LeBron at the 4. I believe Kevin Love at the 5, LeBron at the 4, that's the best lineup, and let the other 3 players make their adjustment off of Kevin Love and LeBron.
And the one thing Kevin Love does have going for him is that it's not that like there's been one lineup that they've stuck to for the last couple weeks that's been successful.
No.
Ty Lue's already tinkering with all different players and all different rotations, so putting Kevin Love in is just one more different added piece.
Well, and I think people, if you didn't watch Larry Nance with the Lakers, and I think most people probably didn't, you don't know Larry Nance, the knock on him before he got to Cleveland, not a good rebounder. Yeah. He's all of a sudden in Cleveland somehow been, but it's very small sample size, been a good rebounder. But I don't know if that is sustainable. Kevin Love will help him tremendously on that. We remember Kevin Love was a guy when he was the sticking in the low post, guy get you 15 rebounds a game for a season. There's one other aspect of Kevin Love that it's a little uncomfortable to bring up, but I think it's important. Because what we don't know is the weight that's been removed from Kevin Love's shoulders since he spoke publicly about his panic attack, since he talked about what actually went down in the locker room when the teammates accused him of why'd you leave the game. And if we are going to see a more at peace Kevin Love, because I think with Love, it's never been a question of skill. It's always been he'd been the guy that got blamed for a lot in Cleveland, the guy who seemed at times mopey in Cleveland. And if we see Kevin Love all of a sudden mentally in a better place to go along with the fact that from an X's and O's standpoint, he now gets to be the second option without any question. Rodney Hood's not taking that from him. George Hill's not taking that from him. No question he's the second option. Are we going to see a guy who's more at peace on and off the court when he comes back from this injury?
And I think that's one of the most important points to bring up because throughout the early part of the season, and you talked to some people from Cleveland, it wasn't just Isaiah Thomas pointing at him. It wasn't just other, like LeBron, I think, had questions. Are you, when push comes to shove, are you going to be the guy that shows up and that we expect and we need? And I think with him being able to get that off his chest, talk about his anxiety, see a therapist, as he had spoken about, I think that's a different mentality, different mindset. And I do think the biggest issue for the Cleveland Cavaliers has been their defense. Part of that is defensive rebounding. And I think Kevin makes a major impact in that top 15 in rebounding. He's top 10 in defensive rebounding percentage. So I think they still got a lot of problems to fix. But I think that's one aspect that he can help shore up.
Here's the thing with the Cavs is even when Kevin Love comes back, what he will not fix for them, what he will not play a single rotation minute for them is in the backcourt. And that has been, no matter who's been on the team, whether it was Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, Isaiah Thomas, George Hill now, J.R. Smith throughout the year, that's been their biggest weak point. They have had the least production of a shooting guard position of any of the top 25 teams in the NBA, basically anyone other than the Tankers. And they have had the least productive backcourt of any of the top 20 teams in the NBA. Maybe you see it. I don't know how Kevin Love helps that part of it.
He's got good gravity. He attracts attention. So I think on the offensive end, he will be a guy that now defenses are keying on. So the backcourt guys still need to make shots.
Yes.
But you put in another player with LeBron James on the floor that now the defense needs to key in on. I think that relieves some of the pressure from other players. And then on the defensive side, I think we see LeBron James communicating so much. Defensively, early part of the season, Cleveland was having different schemes, different coverages for every single team they played. They started to simplify things, and that was something that Tyronn Lue talked about because they said he thought that would be a better way to improve their defense. I think you got another guy in Kevin Love who understands what they're trying to do, can work better in communicating with some of these guys in the pick and roll. He has switchability at times, so I think in ways that can help aid the backcourt.
The other thing, too, watch Cleveland, watch their pace. Ever since they made this trade, they're playing at a faster pace. They get the ball off the backboard when they don't have problems rebounding, and they try to play at a quicker pace. That is the style that is better for Kevin Love. Because you push the ball down the court, the bigs come down late, he's able to hit those three-pointers that are left uncontested. So offensively, he's going to help them a bunch. But is he the answer to all of Cleveland's problems? Absolutely not. They still have several other blaring problems, defensive, backcourt, that I believe will be played out as we get closer to the playoffs.
Before we move past the Cavaliers, do you still like them coming out of the East?
I may have recency bias. I just called a Toronto game a few days ago, 2 days ago. They're legit. They are.
Everyone that watches them, you saw them in person, you said the same thing.
Deal. And I know that we're going to hear until this postseason comes about the ways in which they have not achieved.
We have a basketball expert in here. Maybe he'll start listening.
The ways in which they have not achieved. But to me, DeMar DeRozan is playing at a different level. That bench is impressive in the way in which they have got poise. They've got a lot of different guys that can be interchangeable parts and play in different positions. I really, really like Toronto.
I really like Toronto, and I'm very excited to see Toronto once again losing 6 to the Cavs. Very excited for it.
Sarah, we'll see you a little bit later in the show. Thanks a lot. Coming up, Tom Brady lost another familiar face. So what's next for the Patriots? I think Eric Mangini is stopping in to tell us. Is he here?
Coach Mangini walking in at some point.